Welcome to Cure America. I am Donald Eason, the president of the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, also known as CURE. It's good to be with you today, and I have a special guest with me. We have Torrey Snow, the National Clergy Director for the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, and we're just going to have a fun conversation and talk about our Pastor Summit and talk about his role here at CURE. And so, Torrey, welcome.
Thank you.
How long have you been with CURE?
About a year now.
About a year?
Over a year, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you did a fantastic job last year putting together our National Clergy Summit, and I'm looking forward to having another one this year. I know we haven't taken off as fast as we want to, but let's talk about that some. Why do you think it's important that we have this Clergy Summit here in Washington, D.C.?
Pastor Eason, the Clergy Summit honestly is like the centerpiece of the clergy program, right? And everything that we do is structured around it, and it is largely because of what we hear every single day when we interact with clergy. It is so encouraging for them to be surrounded by other people that share a similar worldview. Notice I didn't say the same worldview, a similar worldview,
right,
which is why this summit reaches out to pastors in our urban communities across the entire United States from a variety of backgrounds, brings them into Washington, D.C. We connect them with some of the biggest thinkers, speakers, presenters in the country that we can think of, and just for 3 days, just love on them and give them the opportunity to fellowship and everything. It is vital to the mission of the CURE Clergy Program that we continue to do this summit.
It absolutely is. And if you're not familiar with CURE, this is your first time tuning in, one of the things that we talk about here and our goal here at CURE is to get the urban community off of the government dole through faith, freedom, and personal responsibility. Also family and opportunities that they have here in our great country, the United States of America. And so our Clergy Center, our Clergy Summit, and our clergy program is vital to doing that. And one of the statistics that I've read, and now see if Torrey might have some other statistics, but in the urban community, even those that don't go to church, it's been reported by Barner somewhere around 90% still listen to the clergy.
That's right. That's right.
And last year when we had our summit, we had actually a special guest. You know, it was a government shutdown, and we tried to get the Secretary of Education and several other secretaries, and they weren't available because of the government shutdown. But there was one that came. Secretary Scott Turner from HUD was willing to be a part of our summit in spite of the government being shut down. How important was it for him to be at our summit and our pastors to interact with?
Look, I would think the Center for Urban Renewal and Education would be glad to hear from the Director for the Housing and Urban Development.
Exactly.
So that was vital, and honestly, that was the biggest win from last year's summit. I mean, despite the obstacles, and you and I were in these meetings, and we were, it was a little touch and go for a bit. Who's going to be able to be here? Because again, we're a policy organization, right? So, what sense does it make to bring all of these, pastors and clergy to Washington, D.C., and don't get to talk with any policymakers? Right. And so,
exactly.
But we did what we could, and we got some great speakers. But getting HUD Secretary Turner, and that was something that, when we got the news that he was going to make a way to make an appearance, and then didn't just show up, but engaged with the pastors and spent time answering their questions, I think that was a reminder of why this summit is so vital, and why why I structure all of our programming around this important summit, because we are connected with the most influential people in these policy decisions. Think about Scott Turner. Think about what he has already done in the simple move of simply saying, when we have HUD grant dollars, we want to help people become self-empowered. And we're not trying to, keep people sustained in poor lifestyles and things like that. We want to actually help them. That was a policy decision that Scott Turner pushed, that we helped advocate for and support. These are the types of things that pastors need to be able to see face to face, and need to be able to experience direct questions. Remember the question the pastor asked?
Yes.
He asked, and again, this is why this is so great. This is why there's such a diverse group of people that are at this summit. And the pastor asked, actually, we'll find a clip for it, but the summary of it is that, hey, what can you do for us? And Scott Turner gave the best possible answer in response to that.
I was holding my breath to see what he was going to say to that question. Can you elaborate a little bit on his answer?
Look, again, he said what we would expect someone that has not just a biblical worldview, but a clear understanding of the issues in our urban communities. He said what needs to be said, which is why we encourage independence. We should not expect or look to the government to help for anything. The government is there to support. And as the Secretary for Housing and Urban Development, there is a supporting role. We have been very, very proud of the relationship that we've cultivated with HUD over the past with their faith department and things like that. They want to help. But again, the goal isn't to create more subsistence. The goal is to say, what can we do to help people become independent? And our clergy, no one knows that more than our pastors.
Right.
You spend time with your congregants saying, great, you're asking for help with your light bill. How can we help you with your finances so that, things are more stable? Sure, there may be opportunities to help in the moment, but as a pastor, as a wise pastor, you're thinking, how do I help this person in the long term so that they don't need this help anymore? Having someone at the Housing and Urban Development that thinks like that, which is very rare in politics, is invaluable. And the fact that we were able to give that opportunity to the members of our clergy network, again, highlight in my ear. Still think about it every day.
It was great. I mean, his answer was spot on, and they are here to help the community. When I say HUD is there, they're here to help the community. However, government programs, obviously, alone have actually failed to solve poverty.
That's right.
In our communities. And why do you think the church, when we talk about the pastors, is so essential in this process?
Well, look, every policy idea breaks down with reality, right? And you have policymakers, and again, too many people, specifically in this area of housing and urban, they have all these pie in the sky, but most of these ideas are coming from people that, come from elite academic institutions, completely detached from reality. They're heavily influenced by people with strong political agendas. And then when you work in the fact that our urban communities are explicitly targeted by Marxists, right? Your Democrat Socialist of America, Planned Parenthood, these extremely left-wing organizations, they don't see our vulnerable communities as, something that needs to be helped and added to the fabric of American society. They cultivate this sense of, well, you don't need to change, you don't need to adapt, you don't need to empower yourselves because we will take care of you, which is how a lot of these folks want it. Our pastors see the consequences of that. And again, we hear this over and over again. All of these ideas sound great. Oh, let's have a program and you can stay in a home, and as long as you're housed, we don't care whether you're getting treatment for, drug addiction or alcoholism. As long as you're in a home, that's fine. Well, guess what? You, as the pastor, has to be the one that goes and, maybe has to, a distraught mother, hey, my son was just found in the hospital for overdosing, or, I miss, my husband or, my family member. You have to deal with that head on. And so, again, all these ideas that sound great, they break down in the reality of society, and the clergy are the touchstones of our society, right? They are the ones that impact and directly interact with the consequences of these decisions, and we hear it every single day.
And you hit on something important, that they want, really, these programs are fostering a thought process of government dependence. They want the community to depend on the government. And what we're trying to do is restore dignity to our communities through personal responsibility. And they asked a question to Frederick Douglass after Emancipation Proclamation, and the question they asked him, and they asked it over and over again. They said, and I'm gonna quote it from what they said at the time: "What shall we do with the Negro?" Today we would say, what shall we do with the Black America or the urban community? And his answer was spot on, and it's changed since then. His answer was, "Do nothing with us." I'm paraphrasing. Your doing has done enough damage, basically. Yes. And he said why? He said because we know how to work, we know how to take care of ourselves. Yes. And so but what he also said, just don't get in our way. and these government programs have gotten in our way.
And that's the sinister part about this. A lot of this is help. It is really dangerous philosophies masquerading as help. And again, you might be able to fool the general public on this, right? You can go on CNN, give your little speech, and make your little fuss on the floor of your house or Senate or whatever. You ain't fooling the pastor.
Right.
You're not going to fool the pastor, right? He knows what's up. And part of the challenge with this whole thing, and this is, again, why the summit is so important, there's been such a culture of intimidation, right? We do have a society, you do have powerful, influential voices that are saying things like, oh, well, if anyone pushes into, self-dependency, they don't want to help you, or they're just selfish, or they're just, falling to white supremacy or things like that. And these politicians will go and intimidate these pastors and say, if you continue this message, we're going to take your congregants away, and we're going to, have all sorts of, things that we're going to go after you. Well, what the summit does is say, okay, that may be difficult, but I'm still taking a stand. The summit gathers all of these pastors into a room, and they can see that there are dozens and dozens of other pastors that are willing to take that kind of stand and to say, you can't just intimidate us simply because we don't agree with your worldview. Again, you can fool the public, you can go on Instagram and do your TikToks. You ain't fooling a pastor.
And you just mentioned they're seeing dozens and dozens of pastors that look like them.
Yes, sir.
That come from the urban community, they come from the black community, and that's not only, we don't just have black pastors at our summit, but a majority are, and they are here to learn. And there are some tools that they can walk away from our summit with.
Yes.
What can you name any of those tools?
Oh man, I could tons of them. Like, one of my favorites was the session about Black history. Now again, I wish I remembered his name. He wrote the book, and I apologize. I should remember his name. It will come to me as soon as the show is over, I'm certain of it. But
if you start, I may
but
come
anyway,
up with it.
So he gives this history lesson. Basically, this is this white man who gets up, and I think a lot you could see in the audience are like, what's this white man have to say about this stuff? And that man,
you're talking about David Barton.
Yes, Barton. Yes, David Barton. He got up there and he taught us things about our own history that we had never been taught. I bet you Morgan State University isn't teaching these things, right? About your history.
About our history and how we played a vital role in America.
Yes. In ways that you wouldn't expect. Like, remember, back in the 1700s, everyone was supposed to be racial, white supremacists. There was a community of white people elected a black man, a black minister. And they kept that man in office. They loved him. They took care of him. That contradicts with the 1619 Project. Now, again, I'm not saying that there were not issues. This is not me sugarcoating. These pastors walked away like, I had no idea about that. Well, you know why you don't know that? Because Planned Parenthood don't want you to know that, right? They have a mission on this, right? Their goal is to go after specifically these black pastors. And I'm glad that you mentioned that aspect of it, because there is a racial component to this. And it's not because we want it to be that way. That's not something that is by design per se, but there is a very intentional, specific, strategic mission to target our black pastors and to capture them. And it's not accidental, and they don't even hide it, right? They show up in church on Sunday and they're waving a Bible. Look, the governor of my state, right? I don't want to get too political. I'll just say every single Sunday he's out there waving a Bible and preaching, but he's signing legislation that's making our state a transgender sanctuary place. Like, again, these are people that if you say what you believe, they will throw you under the bus. They will not hesitate. If they had the opportunity to take your tax-exempt status, to impose penalties on you for hate speech, these same pastors that are, that these politicians are like, oh, this is such a great one, they will turn on you in a heartbeat. Again, our summit says, you know what? There are other people that are willing to stand with you. They're there to stand with your congregations, and we will give you the solutions that are actually going to help, not what's just going to help a politician get power.
You're exactly right, and you just hit on something important, because there are definitely some forces out there against our pastors, against the urban community, and there was also someone at the summit. I'm not going to say his name, but he represented Liberty Councils. See, the pastors get to meet attorneys.
Yes.
That will fight on their behalf for their religious liberty. How important do you think that is for them to be in this group and learn this?
So we, again, the summit, we walk this balance between practical and policy, right? We want to help them, with folks that are, dealing with life issues and homelessness, things like that. But we also equip them with policy. And again, part of this is giving our pastors the legal protection that they are entitled to, right? It is bizarre in 2026 that we actually have to remind people that, there is freedom of religion in this country. Right. I don't know, Civics 101, First Amendment. But we need to remind them. And so, we always go out of our way to bring in attorneys, people who specialize in religion. Again, we, as Cure, have been very involved with the National Religious Liberty Council that has been taking place, and we've been attending their events and things like that. We want to make sure that our pastors know that when you decide to take a stand for what's right, when you decide to take a stand, when you decide to, we will have your back.
Yep.
There are people out there that are going to have your back. And look, I know, when we had Scott Turner in, he's a member of the Trump administration. I'm just going to tell you, right, when it comes to pastors, if I were a pastor, there's no other administration I'd want in charge. Again, setting your feelings about, Donald Trump himself. This is an administration that understands there are people that are coming after your ministries aggressively, trying to erode you and target you with lawsuits. And this administration is actively working to undo a lot of that work. And again, we go out of our way at these summits to say, take a stand for what's right. Take a stand for what you believe in. Push the things that are actually going to be successful, and we equip them with those resources so that they can help not just educate their congregants, but also network with other pastors in their network to help them be more effective in their ministries.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we want to also let our audience know is that these legal agencies, Liberty Counsel is one. They do this work pro bono. Yep. So it's not a charge to our pastors, it's not a charge to the congregants, and it's extremely important that the pastors are introduced to these organizations because they are here, as you mentioned, to help protect our First Amendment rights or any rights that may be violated, but specifically the First Amendment, which gives us freedom of association, freedom of liberty, freedom of speech. And as a pastor, we ought to be definitely fighting for freedom of speech.
A big time. I mean, think about the concept of hate speech and why it has developed. And again, we deal with a broad variety. It is never our goal to dictate to these pastors. That is a core thing. That is your ministry. So I'm not here to dictate anything to you. The Lord is giving you the guidance to run your ministry as you see fit. As you see fit in running your ministry the way that the Lord has led you to do, that you need to understand that your Constitution, your right as an American citizen, is to be able to do that free of government intrusion. Free of government targeting. And so we do educate pastors, not just on what is actually happening, but how they target, right? We had an attorney, like you said, get up, and he just went into just the ways in which you wouldn't think, that some of these targeted ways that they go after people would be effective, but they are. And a lot of the pastors came away from that particular session saying, I did not realize, when the government comes forward with a gift, here, accept this. Right. There's sometimes a hook in that. Yeah,
absolutely.
And so, again, our summit is designed to get that message out there so that these pastors are more savvy when it comes to dealing with these slimy politicians. I'm sorry to make that judgment, but I doubt anyone disagrees with me.
Right. So our pastors, when they come to our summit, obviously we talk about restoring dignity to the urban area. We through faith, freedom, family first responsibility, they receive the tools, they receive the truth, they receive relationships, they receive clarity, and let's look at some of the key issues that we actually addressed beyond what's already been discussed. Let's just talk about education freedom. We really talk about education freedom because that's a big part of what those that I'm gonna just say on the left, they're using our educational system. We want education. We want parents to be in control of their children's education. We had a Ian Rowe on there.
That's right.
Can you speak to that a little bit, Torrey?
Look, education is the foundation of any society. Like, one of my favorite books is a book called Self-Taught.
Okay.
And it basically chronicles specifically education for African Americans, right? Black Americans.
Okay.
Here
And what's
in
the name of it
United
again?
States. Self-Taught.
Self-Taught,
by
okay.
Heather Andrea Williams. I have it in my office over
Okay.
there. Maybe I should have brought that. But anyway, it chronicles the tremendous lengths that, going back to the 1800s, in the Civil War, that specifically black men went to make sure their children had an education. I mean, they're serving in the military, taking their pay, and sending it home to build a schoolhouse. The communities are gathering, they're working, selling what they have just so that they can hire a teacher.
Wow.
We have understood historically that education is the key to freedom in this United States. Frederick Douglass said this best: if you teach a man to read, he will be forever free. And we always talk about white supremacy and oppression and everything. Look at our education system. And many of the pastors that come to this summit, they are coming from places where education is a joke. It is simply an experimental lab for these academics, in these universities. Baltimore City is a great example where you have schools with 0% students with reading proficiency.
Wow.
You had a great conversation with Chris Pabst on this. And
yes.
failure factories. And again, these are the types of issues that we're bringing before our pastors, saying at the core of this is education. And it's not just education in the sense, we're going to teach gender ideology and all this. No, we want you to be able to read, do arithmetic. We want to drive character into you. Ian Rowe was with his ex-school for boys. I'm just telling you, when he was just outlining the fundamentals, things that you and I took for granted.
Right.
You might have 1 or 2 years on me, right? But when I was in school, even in the 90s, there was an expectation. You don't cuss at your teachers, right? You don't act some kind of way, right? And I'm sure that as you go back, the obstacles to education are simply being ignored now. Well, we are giving pastors other opportunities. Right. They look at Ian Rowe's story and say, maybe we could do something like that in our ministry.
Right.
David Herzog is another great example.
Yes,
his school
absolutely.
program, in which there may be pastors that are saying, I see too many of my youth group, the kids in my youth group, that are just performing poorly. Or here's a bigger one that frequently comes up: good kids. Right, they 7, 8, such sweet children. They get into a public high school, and there's just an immediate nosedive. Right. They get in with the wrong group. And so a lot of these pastors are like, maybe I can play a role in providing an education for these. I've got facilities. I've got a little bit of space there. So again, we have people at the summit that are saying, hey, if this is something you want to get involved with, give us a call. We'll help you out free of charge. Right. All you got to do is talk to us, and they can, again, after the session, you should see it, right? We did that in the evening, right after the meal.
Yes.
And so nobody wanted to go home because everybody wanted to talk to, hey, how do I get in on this program? How do I get this information? And we give out the pamphlets and everything. Again, hands-on, practical advice, practical counsel for helping these pastors be more effective in their ministries.
Absolutely, and that is critically important in the education. And we talked about the Herzog Foundation, which is, and what we do here at Cure is we help pastors, as Torrey has just mentioned, obtain the tools that they need. And when we say the tools that they need for education, or educating their congregants, educating their community, and when we look at the schooling, Thomas Sowell has a book. It's called Charter School When They're Enemies. And in his book, he mentions there are around 1 million kids that are on waiting lists to get in a charter school.
That's right.
Which says that our parents and our communities, they're looking for alternatives for their children. And what we can offer here at Cure, you can find out more information about Cure at curepolicy.org. But we help pastors. They can open up a micro school, a homeschool co-op, a private school, maybe even help them open up a charter school. And we can connect them with the people. That's what they learn at our summits. And even after the summits, we still obviously have those resources to help them. And that's what what Torrey just mentioned, how the pastors got excited and the night was supposed to be over.
Nobody wanted to go.
But nobody wants to go because they're learning,
you don't
right?
have to go home, but you can't stay here. But that's a good problem. Like, and that was some of the most fulfilling. I mean, yeah, we put on a good program, right?
We did.
We had great speakers,
Mm-hmm.
but I will tell you, Pastor Eason, the highlight for me was just watching the fellowship afterwards. And watching people connect. Oh, your ministry's, just an hour drive. Hey, maybe we can come and meet up sometime and talk about sharing notes. Watching them interact with our speakers, right, and have conversations with them. And to, again, all I want is that this isn't just another set of lectures. I want these pastors to feel like the time that they invested, because that's what we're asking.
Absolutely.
Time, not much else.
Right,
just
right.
the time.
Yep.
And the time that they invested in this is absolutely vital, which, again, maybe we can talk a little bit about how we do try to take care of the pastors when they get here, right? We try to
expand on it.
Well, yep. We have another segment, right? So I'm going to go in depth on this, right? Because we here at Cure go out of our way to remove as many distractions as possible. And we know pastors are busy. We know that, church budgets are tight. We don't want to go before the elders and say, "Hey, I need a trip to DC." So we take all of that into consideration. And again, we want to show respect for these men, right? These are, men that are leading in our communities.
Yes.
They are making vital decisions, but they're facing tremendous stress, right? They're facing tremendous pressure. So we do go out of our way to make sure they're comfortable, right?
Yes.
Again, there's only so much we can do, but again, if the more resources we have, right, the better we can do.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely balancing it, but like I said, I want the pastors to be refreshed, renewed, educated, and perhaps when we get back, we can talk a little bit more about the ways in which we try to take care of the pastors, and in the ways that you, as the viewers, can help, be a part of this in a very, very real way. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how we can do that.
Very, very, very good, because that's what we want to talk to. We're going to talk about how you can actually help support Cure in supporting our pastors. And in our next segment, we're going to talk about how big a difference that makes in their lives, and how big a difference it's going to make in the community, and how big a difference it's going to make in our country, because we're going to get a little bit more political in our next segment. Not political in a way that we're supporting the candidate or anything, but we're going to get it political in a way because who's in office makes a difference. Who's in serving in our communities makes a difference, and we want those that are serving our communities to be in favor of our communities, supporting, building, and we're going to talk about that in our next segment. So thank you for being here again with us at Cure America. Again, I'm Donald Eason, the president of the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, and we'll see you in our next segment.
That's good.
Yeah, that was good. Welcome back to Cure America. And I am Donald Eason, the president of the Center for Urban Renewal and Education, also known as Cure. And I'm back here having a great, I would even say a wonderful conversation with our National Clergy Director, Torrey Snow. And we left off in the last segment talking about our National Clergy Summit and how you might be able to help support our pastors and our summit. And Torrey, can you expand on that summit? Yeah. What we do at our summit? Well, we talked about some of that, but what the pastors receive and what we do for them.
To
get here.
Let me couch it like this. Because this is so important to our communities across the country, when we have generous investment in people that are supporting specifically the summit, because there are people, specifically last year, there were people that came directly to us and says, I have seen the impacts of these summits. I have seen how it has, what the pastors have had to say about it, the impacts it's had in the communities. When they are kind and basically give us marching orders to say, continue doing this and take care of the pastors while they're here, I take that as an instruction to say, how do we balance the resources that we have? Because again, I want to be responsible and good stewards. Absolutely. But again, we want to make sure that when the pastors arrive, that their accommodations are comfortable, right? Because again, these are long days. I mean, when we go through the agenda, I'm like, oh, this is a lot, Pastor Eason. but we want them to be able to rest. Right, and so we definitely we try hard to take care of the accommodations. We don't skimp on the food, right? You can't sit through hours and hours of great discussion. And again, we're not doing wall-to-wall lectures. It's just that anyone who has done intensive training like this, the brain is a muscle, right? And you're processing massive amounts of information. And so again, when we have generous supporters, like specifically last year, we can make sure that they're well fed, right, and taken care of. And again, these are areas that, for me personally, like I'm very picky about accommodations and food, right? Again, everything else we'll definitely do the best that we can, but again, those are just fundamental human needs, right? We understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs and things like that. But again, when a pastor who, again, has been working nonstop, right? I don't know a single pastor that doesn't have a 7-day work week. I know you guys have the day off, but you as a pastor understand it's rarely just a day off.
Right.
While they're here in DC, we do everything in our power to do that. And that's only possible, right? Again, if I were independently wealthy, I'd pay for it myself. There are people that have been blessed like that when they give us those resources. And again, hopefully people watching here can be a part of that. It just gives us the ability to make sure that they're taken care of. Now, again, our goal is to be modest, right? In this sense, we're not doing anything extravagant or anything over the top. But again, do you have a comfortable bed to sleep in, right? Do you have good food to eat? We ask them to take care of the travel and enter time. That's what we're asking for, and it's always really good. So again, I can't stress that enough. As the clergy director, this is something that is a passion to me. The more resources that we get in, the easier it is for me to, be the best steward of that and make sure we're taking care of these pastors.
Absolutely, yeah, and because they come in usually on Monday night, and so we provide dinner for them. We provide the comfortable accommodations. It's not just for the pastor and their wives. And so they can experience Washington D.C. together. And the next day is a long day. It's breakfast, lunch, dinner, and sessions all in between, and we give them a little bit of a break, but not a whole lot, because we're here to feed them, not just physically, but certainly spiritually. And then on the final day, we usually feed them breakfast, and they get to either explore DC or go home. One of the things that we want to do as well with our relationships here in DC is take them. We actually had it set up for them to go to the White House. But because of the government shutdown,
that was and one thing before you go forward. I do want to stress something that's so important that you mentioned, and it's easy when we get so focused on the mission. We encourage every pastor to bring their wives, and we take care of the wives as well, right? Again,
absolutely.
You get married, leave your father and mother, you are one flesh, and so we take that to heart here. So this is not just a chance for the pastor to get away. We wanted to bring his wife, right? We want her to be a part. We had a lot. Again, to me, that was also encouraging, because we were seeing conversations, and again, the meal times are really when this shines, where you have other pastors' wives that are like, they carry a lot of the weight of the ministry as well.
Yes,
and
my wife.
in the same way, right? And it's very complicated in these ministry environments. I'm thinking about our friend Dr. Perry, Pastor Perry up in Michigan, and the role that his wife plays, and the pilot, that we're doing. Again, she's doing the heavy lifting on that.
Yes,
these are the types of things that we are, encouraging at this summit. So again, this is not just for the pastors. I cannot understate that part of, why we try to get so many resources for this is we believe, the scriptural model. Leave your father and mother, cling to your wife, one flesh. One flesh means 2 mouths at the clergy summit, right?
Absolutely.
Pastor and his wife.
So that's a good segment into the next question or statement I want to make here, because we are all about family.
Yes, sir.
And we talk about, there's been a family breakdown in the urban community.
Yes.
And we talk about that. One of the tenets in Ian Rowe's book is The title of his book is Agency. I strongly encourage you to get a copy. We talk about the success sequence.
Yes, sir.
It's been passed into law and it's required in education in Ohio. And we talk to the pastors about that. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Torrey?
Family, oh my goodness. So the family is at the center of everything that we do, right? And it's not just here at Cure. The family is the center of human society. I don't care what Planned Parenthood tells you. The biblical model, one man, one woman, love each other, love their children, right? That's the model. And again, even if, right, and again, we're a biblical organization, right? But even if you stripped every major human civilization understood this fundamental concept that we now have politicians sitting in Washington, D.C. that can't even tell us what a woman is, right? So, like, and again,
that's a sad commentary.
Fundamental, like when a pastor gets up and says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and he gets down and says, he created Adam and he created Eve. It is not good for the man to be alone, so he created the woman to be a helpmeet. We live in a society where a pastor simply reading scriptures can be targeted for hate speech. Now again, at Cure, we're basically, we're saying, I don't care what all of these people are telling you, we have experts that are telling us, don't stop preaching this message. Delano Squires is another excellent. He was one of our speakers.
Yes.
He's got this great book. We just spent some time with our pastor network just a couple weeks ago. You got to have a great conversation with him. These are the speakers to just kind of remind, like, you're not crazy.
Right.
I know they're going to try to gaslight you into making you think that you're crazy for insisting that a man's a man and a woman's a woman. You're not crazy. And we've got just facts and data. And this year is going to be even better because at the time, Delano Squires, he's been very vocal on this for some time, but at the time he didn't finish his book.
Right.
Now his book is finished. And again, the conversation that we just had a couple of weeks ago, man, for pastors to be able to see, and that was the thing, we have a variety of pastors. They all said, there's a lot of people that agree with you. People on the street that agree with you.
Right.
Why can't our pastors, have the same courage to say these things? Well, sometimes it's in the way it's packaged. So again, we give you speakers from a variety of perspectives. And again, my point is you're not crazy, right? You're preaching the word, you're preaching the counsel of God. It's not popular in our society, but you saying these things is still the truth. And there are clear data-driven points that affirm the biblical worldview.
You bring up a good point about the pastors and the information that we're receiving. Some of the pastors actually even said to us, we actually believe what you believe, but we don't have the information that you have, which makes our summit that much more vital, right? Because we have information that they need. Actually, some pastors spoke to me after our summit. We also had the roundtables afterwards because they wanted to come in and learn some more.
Yes.
And so what our National Clergy program does is not just the summit in the fall or the winter, but the summit, it allows us to expand into these other communities, and so we can get out and touch on the ground the pastors. Because one of the pastors, he called me and he said after our summit, and if you look at our teaching here at Cure, yes, we're a nonpartisan organization, but we're definitely center right in terms of our teaching: faith, family, freedom, family. I'm gonna just reiterate that.
That's not even political, in my opinion.
Exactly, it's not. And God created the family; He created male and female, and He said, "Be fruitful and multiply." But some of the pastors, they actually told me, they said, I actually need to reconsider what I've been teaching to my congregation. I need to reconsider how I've been voting, because who leads makes a difference.
Look, there has been an aggressive, and I said this before, an aggressive, overt attempt to capture specifically our black pastors. And when I say capture, I mean, there are politicians that look at a pastor and they don't see a leader in the community. They don't see someone that is visiting the sick, in the hospital. They don't see someone that is celebrating, new babies being brought in. They don't see someone that is helping someone recover from an addiction or some sort of problem. They see vote machines.
Right.
they see, oh, if I can get this person to take a picture with me, then all of his congregants are going to vote for me. And that's insidious, but it is intentional. And so what you have is a very sophisticated operation of, I wouldn't say deceiving, right? Because I think that, again, our pastors are sharp. They know what's what. They intentionally create incredible confusion about most fundamental things, and then basically try to corner pastors into believing that you're the only one that believes this, so you might as well just embrace what we're thinking. Yep. Again, it speaks to the vital importance of these summits, is to say, you're not crazy, right? You are doing the right thing with all of this. And so, again, our stress has consistently been, make sure that you understand the facts so that when a politician approaches you, when they come, you can ask them, well, what do you believe on this particular issue? And make them change their views. Well, what happens a lot of times is the politicians will come and say, if you echo the things that I say, then we'll help you out. We'll throw some money your way. We'll help you build your new program and everything. And there are, unfortunately, too many pastors that take the bait. Right? And I don't judge them per se. I'm frustrated by it. But again, it is tough, right? Running a ministry in a secular society like the United States, it's tough, and the temptation is there. These politicians know that.
Right.
But there are pastors that take a stand. There are pastors that are strong. And so when we are at these summits, we're giving them information. A lot of times when these pastors are confronted with the facts, when they're confronted with the reality that they have been misled, they have been manipulated, they have been exploited, a lot of them do have to say, wait a minute, we need to have this relationship on our terms because we're the one that's right? We have the truth of Scripture on our side. So when a politician comes to me, you need to respond to what I, as the pastor in my congregation, are asking for, not the other way around.
Absolutely. That's exactly how it needs to be. And so when we look at, our midterms coming up in November, and what we want when we teach our pastors is to really vote a biblical worldview. Yes. We don't tell them to vote Republican or Democrat. We tell them to vote our biblical values. And how important is it for the urban community to vote their biblical values? I just want to give some statistics. In the 2024 election in Michigan, Donald Trump won Michigan. But the U.S. Senate candidate that was running on the same ticket didn't win Michigan because he didn't capture enough of the urban vote. If you're voting biblical values, he may have actually been able to capture it. The same in Georgia, 50% of the electorate is black. If we're not out there teaching them to vote their biblical values, I don't know what they're going to vote. But if we can teach them to vote their biblical values, it makes a difference in the outcome in our election. And I could go further into it. But one of the things that we do at Cure, and I want to stress this because of what we mentioned about the success sequence. There are forces out here that are fighting against the success sequence. And when I say, and it's real forces, there's a professor at Harvard that's saying that the success sequence doesn't work for the black community. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not.
I am.
And so we want those that are in office to understand the value of family and the success sequence. I don't know all the statistics associated with it right now, but I know it's upwards over 90%.
97%, sir.
So there you go. 97% of people that follow success sequence do not end up in poverty. Sure. And what is the success sequence? You get an education. And it doesn't necessarily mean a formal education. It means you get an education where you can take care of yourself. That could mean becoming a carpenter, electrician, a journeyman. Education is number one. Number two, then you get married, and then you have children, and in that order. Education, well, actually, I missed out on, you get a job. Yes. Education, then you get a job, you get married, and then you have children, and you are 97% likely to not be in poverty. And that's one of the things that that our pastors learn at our summit, because that's a biblical teaching, is actually in Jeremiah 29. That teaching, and I've actually gone to different places to teach that success sequence, and the pastors and their wives have just gotten excited, because why? Their faith. Now, when you teach that, the dependency is not on the government. The dependency is on God.
Yeah, and again, I think the sooner that everyone understands, but specifically our pastors, the sooner that they understand that the goal of certain political movements is to create as many uninformed voters as possible. As soon as you remember that, as soon as pastors recognize that the goal of these political movements is to have as many uninformed voters as possible, once they recognize that, they immediately rightly assess threats to their community.
That's exactly right.
Pastors are shepherds, right? The word literally means shepherd. And again, again, we have this wishy-washy political movement. Oh, the pastors are all about love, and they're supposed to cuddle the sheep and everything. Well, what's one other responsibility of a shepherd, sir? You got to protect the flock.
You have to protect the flock.
And that means watching for threats. There are political wolves just circling. And I don't, again, part of me, like, I would think intuitively, maybe it's just because I'm in this all the time, I would think it'd be easy for shepherds to identify threats, but how is it that these politicians, who are literally preying on our congregations, on our young people, with their radical progressive policies, no consequences for crime, things like opposing the success sequence, like, why would a pastor not look at that and say, why are you not encouraging our kids to get education?
Right.
Why are you encouraging them to push these destructive lifestyles? For whatever reason, it takes being at this summit and just laying out the evidence before them for them to rightly come to their own conclusions. That's why one of the great things about being here at Cure is we don't have to push politics.
Absolutely.
We don't have to be political at all. All we have to do is tell the truth, and they come to their own conclusions.
Absolutely.
We don't even have to tell them. Not once. When we do these roundtables here at the headquarters, have we ever once mentioned a specific political party?
Never once, no.
It is the pastors that bring it up. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's actually going on here? That's why this summit, I just get so excited. And to think about the success sequence, again, am I allowed to make controversial statements on here? All right, I'm going to make a controversial statement. I personally believe that the modern Marxist movement that is growing in our communities is the true white supremacy. I really do.
Okay,
I think that I really, and again, that's not an entirely uninformed opinion. You can go back and look at Margaret Sanger and some of the goals of these individuals. They specifically targeted black communities because they don't want black people assimilating into our networks. They don't want them to own anything. I'm in Maryland, right? We have a governor that claims he wants to end the wealth gap and everything. The average net worth for your white family in Maryland is like $460,000. Do you know what it is for black people in the state of Maryland? A progressive bastion with a Democrat-controlled assembly, Democrat-controlled House, and Democrat-controlled governor's office. Do you want to know what the average net worth is for a black family? $60,000.
Wow.
That's net worth. Now, again, we're not talking minimum wage, because again, the progressives will come in and be like, fight for a minimum wage, higher minimum wage. We want to help you with childcare. We want your church to provide pre-K and things like that. Again, not that these are bad things. Wealth is ownership, pastors.
Right.
Which is why we had a whole session about financial literacy. It is ownership.
Absolutely.
Owning a home. You've got politicians that are expending all their political capital. Oh, well, we're going to provide affordable rent, and we're going to help you with your rent. You're not closing a wealth gap by creating an entire class of people that is dependent on the government in order to pay their rent.
Right.
In order to pay their light bill.
That's exactly right.
There's nothing dignified about that. And again, when we sit these pastors down in a room and lay this stuff out for them, I thought, who was it that did the financial presentation? Was that Mike Embry?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
About the financial presentation, where, again, just kind of going back to the basics, like, hey, take care of your finances. Things like this, again, the pastors come to their own conclusions, and what they really do is they get the courage to start telling their congregations the truth.
Absolutely.
Right? And they say, look, when Mr. So-and-so running for governor comes by and promises you a higher minimum wage, you need to understand what the consequences of that. And you need to understand that the path that they have you on has you owning nothing and owing everything.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. Versus the path that we are offering is to say, own as much as you can. And in order to own, you need to sacrifice. We're not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh, well, we're just going to give you all the things that you need and we're going to provide a government handout here. No, you need to work. And yeah, you're going to have to sacrifice. And yeah, you're going to have to go to school. And yeah, you're going to have to do your homework. And yeah, you're going to have to maybe work a job that's not super comfortable, but you're gaining income for the purpose of owning. And we believe that a free market society is the best vehicle for that, outside of letting a bunch of bureaucrats who have continually failed our urban communities for the last 50, 60 years.
Absolutely.
We're saying choose another path, which again, kind of going back to Secretary Turner's remarks when the pastor asked him, hey, what can you do for us? He's like, this is your job. Right? Your job is to teach this. We're here to support. We're not here to pay your bills for you.
Right. and he actually said, you should be helping us. Well, I'm gonna tell a little bit of my story just to show you how important this is. I grew up in the city of Detroit. I grew up with a single mom, and my mom worked a part-time job, and she did get some government assistance. So we're not saying that anybody can need help from time to time. Yeah. And I wasn't a Christian. I didn't become a Christian until I was in my 20s. I got married after I became a Christian. We had our first child. I was working hard. I got laid off my job, and I had to go get some help. And Torrey, I tell you, I'm glad for the help, but I actually got mad.
I have the same story, sir. I was on WIC for 3 years. So on WIC as a teacher, and I could not wait to get off of it. So
we had similar experiences.
Yes.
We needed the help, we took it, but that's not how you want to live your life. No. You don't not want to live your life on government dependency. And what we're teaching our pastors is that most of our community is actually the same way, but they don't know the way out, and the way they learn the way out is through the pastors teaching them and understanding personal responsibility. And when we look at that and we teach them this, how many people are impacted by us teaching one pastor and changing his paradigm on thinking the way the Bible thinks on this success sequence, and certainly just living the biblical worldview? How many people are affected on average, would you say, and community?
I was about to say, don't subpoena me over this one, but I'm pretty. So when the pastors sign up, they give us a little bit of information about their churches and their church size. I think the average congregation was around 300. For the pastors that were in there. So that's just the congregations, right? Not their families and
not the community.
Yeah, not the communities that they have relationships with, the partners. I know my pastor, for example, he works at our rescue mission. He is part of a chaplain program for some businesses that are in the area. He's constantly meeting with people. This. The impact is tremendous, which is why at Cure we have always been laser focused on the clergy.
Absolutely,
because they are going to be the seed change for all of this.
And that is why you and I are sitting here to our audience at Cure America to show how important what we're doing here, as you as the National Clergy Director, what we're doing here at Cure, and how we're impacting our churches, our communities, our pastors, and why we need your support.
Yeah.
We know the numbers on what it costs to put together a clergy summit. It's not a small amount when we're looking at bringing in 100 clergy and their wives, and we just. You can go to curepolicy.org, and there will be a QR code. You should see a QR code at the bottom of the screen or somewhere where he puts it. I don't know where he's going to put it, but you'll see a QR code. You can scan that. It'll take you to our site where you can support our ministry here, support the work that we do here at Cure, and support our Pastors Network, support our Clergy Summit, and by doing so, you're not just impacting our pastors, you're impacting our country, you're impacting our children, and in America, it's the greatest country in the world. And would you not agree?
I would. And let me just say this about the numbers, right? Because my job is to manage the numbers.
Yes.
And again, Pastor Eason comes to me and he's like, I want to do this. And I'll be like, sir, I need a check, sir.
Right.
But we do. We go out of our way. I will just say this. There's going to be a lot of different folks that are watching this. If you can do $50, right? There are some people that $50 will help significantly.
Absolutely.
Especially if we have 10 or 15 or 20, I don't know how many people are going to see this. $50 will help. I will say that if you want to cover the cost for a pastor, I would say that $1,000 gives us the ability to put on the best experience for a pastor and their wife, right? And again, this is not being gaudy or anything. It's just that we're bringing in like heavy hitter speakers, right?
Absolutely.
We're bringing, we went and toured the facility that we've been eyeing. And again, it's nice, right? Again, nothing super fancy. We're not talking gold plated, bathrooms or anything like that, but decent accommodations. And we're in Washington, D.C. So we're aware of that. $1,000, that will take care of a pastor and his wife. And if again, if 50 people were able to do that. Now, again, there are some folks that are way more blessed and have the ability to do a lot more. $15,000. We had a few of those that came through last year. As the clergy director, I love, because again, I want to take care of our pastors. And my priority is caring for the pastors, taking care of them, and when they're here, you see me, I'm running around just taking care of them. We at Cure want to be great hosts. So again, whatever resources that you can provide in that way, $50, $1,000, $15,000, whatever it is that can help us put on the best possible summit that we can. As the clergy director, I appreciate it, and Pastor Eason appreciates me not, constantly pounding on his door.
Thank you, Torrey. and as Torrey mentioned, any of those amounts will be helpful in supporting our Clergy Summit. And if you can do 10, 25, whatever you're able to do to help our clergy and our Clergy Summit will be greatly appreciated. And Torrey, we got to do more of this.
Oh man, I love it. You know me, my voice is the favorite.
So I appreciate you being with me today on the program. And any last words you want to share before we end our program?
If you're a member of the clergy, if you're part of our clergy network, help us spread the word. Look, I know that we are getting so many requests about the summit. We're working on it, right? And we're excited to roll some of the information, about that. But again, spread the word. If you're not a member of the clergy, but you want to support it, again, this is Cure's clergy program, the heartbeat of our clergy program. So my final word is to say, be a part of one of the most impacting events of this year.
Thank you, Torrey. And thank you all for being here with us. Again, this is Cure America with Donald T. Eason. I am Donald Eason, the president of the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. And I'd like to leave you with these words from the book of Proverbs. It says, in all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. May God bless you. Please join us next time.